access to former President Jacob Zuma's tax records by using his own tweets. While Zuma has never formally given consent for her to get these records, he tweeted his approval. Business Day is reporting that the Public Protector was responding to an application brought by South African Revenue Services Commissioner Edward Kieswetter to block her powers to subpoena SARS to hand over Zuma's confidential tax information. The Public Protector is investigating claims that Zuma received a salary from a security company in the first months of his presidency. Kieswetter wants the Pretoria High Court to order that SARS information is private and protected and may not be accessed by outside parties. The Public Protector has used a legal opinion provided to her by Zuma's own advocate, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, to argue that her office does have the legal power to access taxpayer information. She claims her lawyers have experienced logistical difficulties in obtaining formal permission from Zuma for his tax records to be handed over to her. All right, well, joining us now in studio is our editorial contributor, Karen Moore, and she's going to unpack this a bit for us. Karen, good morning. Thanks for your time. So the Public Protector seems to be limping from one loss in court to another, and this latest move seemingly puts her on the back foot yet again.
Well, it's an interesting one because I think the real question here is what is the former president's response to this issue around the tweets going to be?
Okay.
Because we've seen him landing up in trouble over, his tweets about Derek Hanekom being a known apartheid agent. He lost a legal action brought against him for his former minister, Derek Hanekom, has to apologize and the damages will be determined later. He's seeking to appeal that. But now these three tweets in which he basically said he had no problem with handing over his confidential tax records. He has nothing to hide. He wants to support the Public Protector. He's never sought not to support the Public Protector. Now making their way into a court process. And it's apparent that the Public Protector hasn't been able to get a confirmatory affidavit from his lawyers confirming that he in fact wrote them. In addition, the Public Protector is also bringing an application, a counter-application, that if the court rules that she is not, under her powers of the Public Protector, entitled to access to Jacob Zuma's tax records, she's bringing a cross-application to the court to say she wants the court to order that they be granted to her. So she's really taking this very, very seriously. It has quite significant implications for Jacob Zuma because, as we know from the book The President's Keepers, written by author Jacques, there is this allegation that certain sources within SARS provided Poe with information that Zuma in fact received this alleged salary from Royal Security and that there are in fact records about it. So this issue about if he posted these tweets, did he post these tweets, is he going to confirm that the tweets are in fact his, are very forefronted. And in addition, we also see media houses, Tiso Blackstar, bringing an application to a separate application for access to Jacob Zuma's tax records. So Jacob Zuma's tax very much in the domain of the courts, and it's going to be quite an interesting set of legal challenges that may have significant implications for him.
And if, speaking about the legal challenges, if she's challenging the constitutionality of the Tax Administration Act, does this suggest then that the Public Protector Act supersedes the former?
Well, this is essentially what she's saying. I mean, Edward Kieswetter is very adamant. He says, look, in order for SARS to function, we need to assure every taxpayer that their taxpayer information is confidential. Because if any person has this idea that just at the drop of the hat the information can simply be handed over as a consequence of a Public Protector subpoena, it's going to influence taxpayer compliance in an environment where, we're already struggling with this. South African citizens are under siege. They have huge issues with the previous management of SARS. There is this culture of non-compliance. Now you say this information comes out. They are going to be very unhappy about that. So he's saying this is not about Jacob Zuma, this is about taxpayer compliance. The Public Protector is saying that the Public Protector Act makes it an offence, a criminal offence, and she's threatened Kieswetter with this, to not provide her with the information that she seeks, unless you can show just cause. And she's saying that Kieswetter's stance does not justify or does not show just cause, and he should be ordered to hand over that information, and he should be found to have effectively violated the provisions of the Public Protector Act and the Constitution itself, because the Constitution demands compliance with the Public Protector.
So then what about the public interest argument regarding Zuma's tax affairs and, holding members of the executive to perhaps a different standard?
Well, this is a pivotal issue. And I mean, in terms of the media application for his tax records, that's going to be a big issue. That this was a head of state. This was someone who exercised huge control over South Africa for the last 9 years. The way in which he managed his personal finances, these allegations that as president he was receiving this alleged R1 million a month salary from Royal Security, whose head, Roy Moodley, is of course quite a controversial figure who has benefited allegedly from significant involvement in certain government tenders, etc. That is a matter of public interest, and that should be open to the public and discussed and ventilated. But, obviously SARS has taken a position on this, that they don't want to disclose this kind of information unless they are ordered to do so by a court of law. So it's very interesting that Mkhwebane has now brought this sort of other application within her response to SARS to say, well, if you say that the Public Protector Act does not supersede the Tax Administration Act, which is what Mkhwebane is arguing, then I want to bring an application, a cross-application, to say I want the court to find that there is a justifiable reason to hand that information over to me, so I can ethically investigate the former president over these allegations.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting, Karen. Thank you very much for that. Our contributing editor, Karen Moore.